is cool. I'm gonna tilt it up a little bit. I hope you guys don't mind. I'll move it back, no worries. I figured, I'm reading the room, I figured I'd tell you all a little more about myself. I always love doing that, especially in a place like Texas. It's so near and dear to me and special in my heart. Of course, it's my home state. And, they say everything's bigger in Texas, right? And, right? I'm obviously not an exception. But the thing that makes Texas special isn't that everything is bigger here. It's that this state finds a way to lift you up when you're feeling the smallest. Of course, when I did make my debut, I was small. I was born on March 24th, 1984, at St. Paul Medical Center in Dallas, Texas. Our home was Hutchins, Texas. If you're going south on 45 outside of Dallas, it's the first small town going out. And for the first 17 years of my life, we lived there. And it's the same place where my great-grandfather, Bosh, moved for a better life, in search of a better life for his family. And, he moved from a small, segregated town in East Alabama all the way back in 1921. So it's been 100 years since he first came there. And, he worked his way up to starting a family. And he had a young son by the name of Jack. He eventually changed his name and we called him Daddy Jack. That's my grandfather. And it was always special to me because for me, growing up in Hutchins, really a perfect day was just eating some pancakes and going to the park to go play some basketball in that Texas heat. And sometimes I played and I didn't have a net on my rim to shoot on. I didn't have backboards sometimes, and even sometimes I would shoot baskets in a trash can. But I kept shooting because that's what you do here in Texas, right? You make the most out of what you have. And when it came to dribbling the basketball, what I had was this, those dusty, rocky driveways? I'm sure everybody had one here. You bounce a ball and it'll go a different direction every time. At first, I spent a lot of time running after my ball, but after enough reps, I learned exactly where to be before the ball hit the ground. In those days, I'll tell you, my awareness of organized basketball was limited, I'll be honest. We didn't have a community center with a team. We didn't have a community center to run practice, so I had yet to learn the fundamentals of the game. I just knew that when I was playing, I felt at home. Anytime I had a basketball, the outside world disappeared from my mind. My problems went away. I was home. And later on, I began to find more homes across the city of Dallas. Great recreation centers, like John C. Phelps, the Tommy M. Allen Center, the X-Line Center, Martin Luther King Center. On those courts is where I truly learned the game. And I kept playing, and eventually I had someone come and say, you can play basketball. And I got the opportunity to play at St. Philip's, which is a great school in South Dallas with a great 10 and under program for young men and women. And I kept working through my adolescence and found myself with those same friends that I made at St. Philip's at Lincoln High School in Dallas, Texas. And by that time, I learned how to play. By that time, I knew the fundamentals. By that time, I thought I was pretty good. I mean, we all did. And going into our junior year, I tell you, we felt like giants. And I'll be honest, I started to think that we were bulletproof. We had a 32-2 record going downstate, and we just felt on top of the world. And we had our sights set on being one of those great teams from Dallas and representing our school well. But once we got to the Frank Irwin Center at the state tournament, we got knocked back down to size by a very good team from San Antonio Lanier High School that knocked us back down. And I'll be honest with you, we did kind of underestimate our opponent, but we learned a lesson. We learned not to do that ever again. And, it really hurt me because I didn't expect it to hurt that much. It didn't align with the vision that I had of greatness for me and my teammates. And I have to be honest with you, I felt tiny because I felt like all of the work I had put in was for nothing. Because for the first time I realized that you can get all the way to the end, just short of your goal, and not make it. But then I remembered the lessons that Texas had taught my family about planting your roots in the soil, about bouncing back up when you've been knocked down, about turning obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into strengths, about planting seeds of greatness in that soil. And I decided that the work that we did, it wasn't for nothing. It just wasn't enough at the time. So the next year we worked even harder. We made sure that we spent more time in the gym and less complaints. Making those grades I needed to make so I wouldn't have my aunts coming and knocking on my door because they're all retired teachers. I hear a few chuckles. One's a retired police officer too, so I don't have to tell you it was easier to make better grades. That next year, our senior year, you heard it, we went undefeated, 40-0. Kids having the time of our lives, and we brought the state championship back home to South Dallas. Now, I want you to realize something. We were kids from a public school with no air conditioning in our gyms, but we didn't make that an excuse. We learned to play together as a team. We represented our community, and we brought honor back to the corner of Hatcher and Malcolm X in South Dallas, and to all of the gyms that provided us with a haven from the outside, just as Hutchins had done for my family. And a number of years later, I was humbled again, and this was after Toronto, after being drafted, after all-star appearances. I teamed up with my buddies in Miami, and we made the finals our first year together, searching for that championship. Even better, I was playing against my hometown team in Dallas. It was a dream that a boy from Hutchins wouldn't even think possible. And then I learned that same lesson all over again, that you can make it all the way to the championship and fall short, that the game can bring you down to your knees and make you feel this small. It was pretty much like losing to Lanier all over again for me. Not even a Whataburger and fries could fix it. But just like in high school, we knew what we had to do. I knew what I had to do. I had to bounce back by working harder, by making the team stronger, by making sure we would come together and not fall apart. So that's what we did. And we won a championship, and another the next year against the Spurs. I know, it's a thing. My bad, Tony. I wrote it before I even knew you were going to be here. But despite who our opponent was, I have to be honest with you, I played every game with Texas on my mind. For my family and friends in this state who always let me know that I'm not alone. I always wanted to do something that they would be proud of. I always wanted to do something to give the community hope. And that community was there for me once again when I got blindsided with news that I had to suddenly retire. And my career didn't end the way that you always see the classic ending for that athlete. It was just in the doctor's office in the middle of the afternoon. But I tell you one thing, it's good to come back home when you're unsure. I found my purpose again here in Texas. My wife, Asia, and I are raising our 5 children here in Texas. And I'm concentrated on reaching new heights and chasing new goals that I didn't even think was possible. Because I have to tell you, and I want to encourage you to think about this as well. In this state, that's the thing about Texas. Even when you're feeling small, whether you're a kid shooting hoops in a trash can, or someone looking for a better life for your family, or if you're a parent that has to switch careers and find out a new way to put food on the table, or if you're a former NBA player participating in art class with your kids. Your dreams can be anything. Your dreams don't have to be small. They can be as big as Texas, and they can come true. I like to think of it as your dreams are like that basketball that I used to bounce in the rocky driveway. Sure, you might hit a rock, and the ball might go somewhere you didn't intend it to. But go ahead and chase it. Walk over to your dreams, pick them up and try again. Because you never know. And I'm telling you right now, I believe that they can come true. And they can be as big as Texas. Thank you very much, Texas Hall of Fame.